Welcome to Sober Sunrise, a podcast bringing you AA speaker meetings with stories of experience, strength, and hope from around the world. We bring you several new speakers weekly, so be sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help us remain self-supporting, please visit our website at sober-sunrise.com. Whether you join us in the morning or at night, there's nothing better than a sober sunrise. We hope that you enjoy today's speaker.
Hi everybody, I'm Don Landis. I'm an alcoholic. And thanks to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, strong sponsorship, 12 steps, the things I've been taught to do here in my time in Alcoholics Anonymous, I haven't had a drink since September 16th, 1991. And for that, I'm very grateful. And I certainly hope that you're applauding for Alcoholics Anonymous, because if you're applauding for me, that's the wrong thing to applaud for. I am a low-bottom drunk. And in my recovery, I'm a meat and potatoes AA member. I am not a circuit speaker. I am not a guy that bases my recovery on this. I'll be honest with you, the most dangerous thing I do in my recovery is this. Because, the ego's still alive, trust me, And you get on a plane and you think about those people you haven't met yet and those new friends you're going to meet in Aberdeen, and you go, Jesus, how did this happen? One day the LAPD is dragging me out of the car and they're sticking a shotgun in my ear going, give me a reason, punk, and then it seems like a short time later you're getting on a plane to go speak in AA, and it's a dangerous thing for me to ever think that I have anything to do with the good that's transpired in my life. And I'm a guy that got a second chance. Got a second chance at the game of life because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And because of good sponsorship and the men that came before me that have shown me the way, I've been able to make use of that second chance. And I'm just grateful to be here. I think it's an honor and a privilege just to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Just to be able to come to meetings with people like you on a daily basis or a weekly basis, whatever your schedule is, be able to enjoy the gift of sobriety one more day. A gift that for a long time I didn't think I wanted. And then once I wanted it, I knew I'd never have it. I knew I'd never make it in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because the previous 6 years before I got to AA, I tried everything I could think of to stop drinking. And there was always one more attempt and one more failure. So when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't even come here to get sober. I was in trouble, fancy that. And I came here to get the heat off, figure out my next move and buy some time. And the fact that I've been able to stay here and that I haven't had to take a drink in over 15 years, and more importantly, I'm not fighting the drink. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable with my own thoughts. The best people I've ever had in my life are in place in my life today. I'm not just grateful, I'm amazed. And I'll tell you, it didn't look like it was going to start out that way. Before I get any more self-involved, I want to take a minute to thank everybody that's associated with this meeting for taking the time. I know it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort by AA members to put something like this together. And I know the thought that you give it, and you want it to do good, and you're trying to create an environment where recovery can happen. And that takes an essential ingredient, and it takes love. You can call it a lot of other things, but you got to love your fellow alcoholic to be willing to be inconvenienced for them. Be willing to put something together so people can come and partake of the fruits of recovery. And I want to thank everyone that's associated with this meeting. And I want to thank my friend John, who picked me up at 10:30 at night last night. Had a big smile on his face and took me to the motel and made sure I got fed tonight and got here on time. And he's a good AA member. And I met some of his cronies and we got to talk a little bit. And I've been fortunate enough in Alcoholics Anonymous, every now and then I get to travel a little bit. And we're all the same, You meet those AA guys and you can see it in their eye. They're just glad they got a second chance at the game of life. They're just so grateful. They just, and you tell those war stories and you go, did you ever think it was going to turn out like this? Did you ever think it was going to be okay? And the answer is no. Had no reason to suspect it. Had no reason. And I'll tell you, I didn't start drinking in earnest until I was 17 years old. That's not my first drink. I'm not interested in my first drink. It bores me. I'm sure I did some drinking in the years leading up to that. A beer here, a drink there. But 17 years old is when I threw my first drunk. And why that's important for me is, you see, that's where I got enough alcohol on board in one setting to get there. Because alcohol, as much as anything, it transports me. It takes me to the land of I don't care. and I get to step out easy, and those rough edges become smooth. And it's not that I become better looking or I dance better or I think that your girlfriend would rather be with me. I just don't care about those things anymore. Because before I throw that first drunk when I'm 17 years old, I got all the alcoholic precursors going on in my life that you hear about in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got all that stuff, and I don't get into the debate whether I was born alcoholic or whether I became an alcoholic. I'm not quite sure when I crossed that invisible line from controlled to uncontrolled drinking. But I know this, I was a goofy kid growing up, and I was self-obsessed, and I was self-centered to my core. I'm the kind of guy that knows how he looks in 17 different angles at all times. I mean, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. I'm the kind of alcoholic, I will get you in a corner and talk incessantly about myself for half an hour straight. Realize I'm doing that, go, wait a minute, enough about me. What do you think of me? And these are not things that are produced by me drinking alcohol. These are things that are taken care of when I drink alcohol. You see, there's always been a wall between me and the world. There's always been a wall between me and you. And I've never been able to see it, but I know it's there. I've always felt uncomfortable in my skin, like I can't reach out and touch you. I can play sports with you. I can hang out with you socially. I can go to school with you. I can work with you. I can do all these things that put us in these social situations where we're supposed to be having a common bonding experience. We're supposed to be breaking through. We're supposed to be getting close to each other. And I can't connect with other human beings. And when I drink alcohol, the wall comes down. And that's magic for a guy like me. I can reach you. I can talk to you. I like you. I know you like me. I don't even have to ask. All that happens when I drink alcohol. And that's very valuable to me when I discovered that when I was 17 years old. And I didn't get a fifth of Jack Daniels and go on a crime spree, and I didn't head for Skid Row. I just knew I liked it. And I knew I was going to be doing more of it. And I got to tell you, the early part of my drinking, it was trouble-free. It really was. I wasn't picking up a tab. Didn't seem to be getting any real scrapes. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, basically trouble-free. Wasn't standing in courtrooms in front of judges trying to explain my latest event of outrageous behavior. I wasn't standing in front of my mom with her crying her eyes out going, "Don't you know you're killing yourself?" I didn't have girlfriends hiding in closets because they were afraid they were going to get smacked around in my latest drunken rage. Those type of things, I guess when I was 23, you could have labeled them yet to be added to my story. And I was having such a good time with the drink when I was 23, 22 years old, that if God Almighty had walked into the bar I was drinking in and had sat down on the bar stool next to me and said, "Don, the next drink, it's going to pass you into a region where there's no return through human aid. You're going to have to go to Alcoholics Anonymous for the rest of your life or die a horrible alcoholic death," I'd have told God Almighty, "You got the wrong guy." Because it was working for me. From my toes to my head, from the inside out. It's letting me be anything I want to be, not feel anything I don't want to feel. And I'm getting into trouble, but I can drink through trouble. That's not a big deal. And it's not that my alcoholism and the way that I was drinking wasn't a problem for the people that cared about me or the people that were around me. I can't tell you how many times I had a girlfriend standing in front of me, crying her eyes out, going, "Don't you know how I feel?" You're like, not really. Because I'm drinking. And when I'm drinking, I really have no ability to connect with another human being. It just doesn't get to me. I wish that the trouble it caused for me was some incentive, or the trouble it caused for other people was some incentive for me to change, but it's not. You see, it's not a problem for me until it's a problem for me. But a very interesting thing happened to me by the time that I was 25 years old. And what happened for me by the time I was 25, I had what the big book refers to as self-knowledge. No justification, no rationalization, no framing, no spin doctor. I knew the drink was killing me. I knew that every negative aspect of my life was associated with the drink. I knew every plan I put into motion and failed to hit the finish line, right alongside that was to drink alcohol. And I got it. And I remember thinking, God, they've been talking to me about my drinking for years, and I just thought they had the wrong guy. Now I understand. And I did what a lot of us do when we have that for the very first time in our life, that self-knowledge. I made the declaration. I told everybody I knew I was quitting drinking, so don't try to tempt me. And I absolutely knew I was going to stop drinking. I knew it would be no problem. You know why? Because I'm a man. And you know what a man does when he finds out he has a problem with something? You just knock it off. You just knock it off. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you just knock it off. And I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I didn't get a sponsor. and I didn't work your 12 golden steps wrapped in a ribbon of promise, and I quit drinking for 2 weeks. And the funny thing about that 2 weeks is in that 2 weeks, all the outside stuff that they can see, it starts looking better. I mean, the laundry starts getting done. I start showing up to work 5 days a week, which is kind of new for me at that point. And I'm getting all the affirmation and all the support from the people that love me the most that you think somebody would want to receive who just made a life-changing decision, giving up the booze. They're saying all the right things. They're saying, we're so glad you quit drinking. We thought you were going to die. We thought we were going to lose you. It's all going to be okay, Don. And man, I want to believe that, so I'm saying it back to them. And I'm saying, giving them things like, thanks for hanging in there with me. I don't really know what that was all about. You know, I'm working out again. You know, I don't miss it at all. I feel fine. And our big book talks about that. It says we laugh at such a sally. Inwardly, our man would do anything to take a couple of drinks. And that's where I was. Because in here where my soul lives, with every day that goes by, since my last drunk, I'm getting more irritable and restless and discontent and confused and baffled, because for years you've been telling me that drinking's my problem. You know what? I agree with you. And I'm not drinking. So why do I want to kill myself or kill somebody else? And you see, at 25 years old with no Alcoholics Anonymous, I had never been to AA, so I hadn't read your book, and I hadn't got to the part in the book that said for the real alcoholic, he will absolutely be unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. So I'm trying to quit drinking on the things that I naturally bring to the game. See, every human being brings these things naturally. We bring our instincts, we bring our intellect, we bring our emotions. And why these things work really well for me in a lot of areas of my life, in the game of alcoholism, they will kill me dead. I cannot think my way out of my alcoholism. And I tried to do that. It made perfect sense to me that if the drink is killing me and I put it down, everything's going to get better. And I put the drink down and everything got worse. And after 2 weeks of recovery with my own program, which consists of don't take anything that affects you from the neck up and tell everybody how happy you are about it, I picked up a half pint. And I did what most of us do after that brief period of recovery. You drink that half pint and it gives us what it always gave us. It gives us that relief. In the doctor's opinion, it says guys like me drink essentially for the effect produced by alcohol. And what is the effect? You know, you think you're better looking than you are? I don't know what the effect is for you. For me, in a word, it's relief. It's relief from what swirls around in my head when I'm in a sober state. It's those, do I fit in? Do they like me enough? Am I good enough? It's the resentments that I live with on a daily basis. It's all the worry, all the contortions that my mind puts me through on a daily basis. It's that big dark secret I've carried ever since I was a little boy that I swore I'd never tell anybody, and I finally told a man in Alcoholics Anonymous. And what the secret is, and I've talked to enough men I've sponsored, it's all the same. Life has always felt a little bit too big for me. See, all that goes away when I drink whiskey. All that goes away. And for lack of a better explanation, when I drink, no matter what's going on in my life, drinking enough whiskey in one setting produces a feeling in me that vaguely resembles hope. And what is hope? Hope is in spite of all the information you might have in front of you, that billboard-sized information that says it's never going to be okay, it's never going to get any better. I drink whiskey and I can imagine anything. You know, I can drink whiskey and sit back and go, tomorrow I'm going to go into work and I'm going to clean up all those files I got hidden in my bottom desk drawer. You know, tomorrow I'm going to go and I'm going to call my mom up and I'm going to tell her how sorry I am. I'm going to start paying back that money I borrowed from her. You know, tomorrow I'm going to call up the IRS and I'm going to clean up all those years of taxes because this is no way to live. Tomorrow I'm going to quit drinking. And I make those promises to myself over and over again with a belly full of whiskey, and it makes perfect sense, and I'm hopeful and I'm strong and I know it's going to be different tomorrow. And then tomorrow I wake up and I'm hungover and I just want to get to work because the job's always in jeopardy. And I can't look anyone in the eye because I physically don't feel good. And by 10 o'clock I start to feel a little bit better. And by 12 o'clock I'm able to choke down some food. And all day long I tell myself how I'm not drinking that night, how I'm dying from my drinking, how this has to stop. And about 3 o'clock every day I have what's known as the miracle of 3 o'clock, which is after a whole day of promising myself I'm not going to drink that night, I have what the book refers to as the thought that precedes the first drink. And this little voice says, we'll just have a couple. And what happened to my plan? And I get excited and the two voices start arguing out of my head. What happened to our plan? We're not drinking tonight. Well, we're just going to have a couple. What happened to our plan? We're not drinking tonight. We're not going to go to the bar, for God's sakes. What happened to my plan? We're not going to drink tonight. Well, it's not like I'm going to buy any drugs. I'm just going to do a little drinking at home. I won't get in any trouble. And at 5 o'clock, I'm at the liquor store. and I'm pointing at the bottle and they're putting it down, and I know I shouldn't be doing this. I know where it takes me every time. And I go home and I pour 4 to 6 ounces of whiskey in a glass with ice, and I swirl it twice. I take about half of that down. Takes the air right out of your lungs. And you get some air pumped back in there, and I finish that 4 to 6 ounces, and I repeat 2 or 3 times as recommended. And then I wake. And I sit back on the couch, and all the things that have been bothering me all day long, all the failure, all the heartache, all the trouble I'm in, I've taken every good thing that's ever come into my life and I've torn it to shreds. All of that goes away, and it changes. And the things that I worry so much about, I can still think about them, but now they don't bother me. I'm so worried that she's going to leave me. You know what? Let her go. I found her. I'll find another. I'm thinking about that job I'm about to lose. You know what? They're lucky to have me. I'm thinking about the IRS. Big deal. I'll change my Social Security card. All these problems get resolved over a couple of drinks sitting on my couch, and my life goes nowhere. I pulled the big geographic in '85. I knew that Los Angeles was the problem. It's where all my loady friends were. It's where I built this reputation as Johnny Saturday Night. They expected me to drink. They expected me to party. You know, it was all that temptation, you know. You try to tell people you're not drinking, and there they are shoving drinks in your face. How's anyone going to get sober in that environment? So I moved to Boston. Found out, much to my chagrin, they drink in Boston. I think they drink more. And I stayed in Boston for 3 years, and you know the story, you know, the downward spiral, you know. And some things started getting added into my story at that point that had never been a part of my story. I started going to jail, and I'd love to tell you some great criminal story about this tough guy. That's not how I go to jail. You see, the problem is I start to drink at home, and I'm not going to go out because I get in trouble when I go out. But there's a certain point in that process where I get enough whiskey on board, I just can't stay home because it's out there, and it's happening right now. And I'm going to miss it. And besides, they're going to miss me because I add to at this point. I got a little whiskey in me. I know I'm the life of the party. And I go out. And I love to get drunk. And I love to go to the bars. And I love to dance. And I love to fight. And I love to do all that crazy alcoholic stuff. And then I get too drunk. And now it's time to go home. And I'm walking home. And I just get tired. You know how it is? You've been drinking whiskey all night. And you got about a mile walk home. You just want to rest for a minute. You just want to just catch your breath. And I sit down and I fall asleep. And somebody calls the police because there's a big guy on their front lawn. And they come and they take me away. And I wake up in a jail cell and I don't know what I did or why I got there. And I'll tell you, it's through repetition, living the way that I was living, it was astounding to me the things that I got used to. The first time I came out of a blackout and I was in a jail cell, I was shocked. And I thought, I wasn't raised this way. You know, I was our graduating class athlete. I left high school with a 3.5 GPA. I was supposed to go play basketball at a major university. Fear didn't open the first envelope, didn't open the first piece of paper from the university. Big Book tells me the fabric of our existence is shot through with it. It says that fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. It did in my case. Couldn't get out of my own way. Fear paralyzes me. And when I'm drunk, it kills the fear, but I can't do anything. And I came out of that blackout in that jail, and I thought to myself, this will never happen again. But I'll tell you, the 15th time you come out of a blackout in jail, it's very different. You come to and you go, wow, this is jail. I don't know which jail. And you just wonder what you did, and you wonder about how much trouble you're in. And I just got used to that stuff. I got used to having to borrow $20 on Monday morning because I'd blown my paycheck drinking on the weekend. I got used to making those sweet promises to my family about how it was going to be different this time and how it wasn't going to ruin the holidays, just to ruin them again. I got used to doing things like being down on my luck, and my mom calls me up, and she lives in Lexington, Kentucky, and she goes, I haven't seen my favorite son in a while, and I really need to see you. And I got to tell my mom I'm broke or I'd do it. And she goes, well, you know what? I'm doing okay right now. I'll buy you a ticket. You know, so my mom buys me a ticket at Christmas to go to Lexington, Kentucky, and I went out the night before I was supposed to fly out there, and I met her, you know, and we trudged the road of happy destiny, and I come to, and I've missed my flight. And, you know, you think that a guy would pick up the phone and take the heat and call his mom and go, you know what, Mom, I blew it. You know, I'm really sorry. I missed my flight. I'm not going to be there for Christmas. But that's not what an alcoholic like me does, because you know what? They might be mad at me. They might hurt my feelings. I'm embarrassed enough about that. So I just start drinking in the morning. I pass out and go back to sleep. And my mom gets up, and it's Christmas time, and she's so excited. She's going to see her favorite son that she bought a ticket for, and she gets dressed, and she drives that rickety car that she drives. She drives it down to the airport, and there's a pounding rainstorm in Lexington at that time. But she doesn't even see the rain. She doesn't even bother her because she's going to go see her favorite son. And she's out there with her umbrella on the tarmac, and she's watching him get off the plane, and she just knows it's the next guy getting out of the plane. She's looking for the big guy that has to lift up when he comes out because she knows he's going to be there. And finally, there's nobody getting off the plane. And the crew's coming out of the plane, and they're walking by my mom who's standing in the pouring rain in Lexington, Kentucky. And she goes, "There must be a mistake. There's got to be somebody left on that plane. My son's supposed to be on that plane." "No, I'm sorry, ma'am. There's nobody else on the plane." And she gets back in her car, and she drives back to that little apartment that she lives in by herself in Lexington, Kentucky, and she sits at the dining room table, and she starts to cry because she knows I'm going to die, and I'm beyond human aid. And I don't find out these things at the time. I find out these things through a program called Alcoholics Anonymous. And when we go through the 8th and 9th step in the amends process, and I made that list of all the things I had done wrong and all the people I had hurt, I had a preconceived idea because I live my life based on what I bring to the game, my intellect, my instincts, and my emotions. So I am so grandiose, I will think I know how I hurt you. I know what I did wrong. You spent all that money for that plane ticket. That's what pissed you off. And I go and I make those amends with family members, and I say what I think I did wrong, and I ask what I can do to make it right. And then I give them the opportunity to talk to me. Tell me how you feel about this, and if you don't know right now, then we can talk again, but it's important that I understand how I affected you. An important ingredient in the amends is you ask them, how did my behavior when I was drinking affect you? And I found out it wasn't about the money, and it wasn't about the cars, and it was about loving somebody as much as my family loved me, and not knowing that when the phone rang after 10 o'clock at night, was that the night they were going to get the call that I was dead? Was that the night? And we come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and we're absolutely consumed with our disease because it's killing us, and we need to pay attention, and we need to be selfish, and we need to circle the wagons, and we need to get some recovery, or we're going to die from this thing. But we need to work the steps when we start to get well. When we get well in our own life and that roaring wind stops blowing in our guts and we get that conscious contact with a power greater than ourselves, one of the gifts that we have in Alcoholics Anonymous is we can take what we learn here and through the steps and through the amends process, we can start to heal our families. We can start to bring our family members to open meetings. We can start to bring the gift of recovery home where we have roared through their lives like a tornado year after year after year. My book tells me a man is unthinking to say that stopping drinking is enough. They use the analogy of coming out of the storm cellar to the devastation of the farm and saying, "Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing, Ma?" It's not enough. It wasn't enough for me to have my life saved by Alcoholics Anonymous and say, "I'm sorry." An apology is but a small aspect of the amends process. What can I do to make it right? And I've been able to be active in my family. I've been able to make those graduations and those Christmases. And I'll tell you what kind of a loser I was when I started making financial amends to my mom. I called her up and said, "Do you have any idea, Mom?" I go, I just don't even know how much I owe you. And she said, "Hang on a minute, I got it written down." So she gave me this figure, and I started sending my mom a check for $150 a month. This is many years ago, and I still do it, and I've paid it off. It's just something that we do. And when she got the first check, she didn't call me up and say thank you, and she didn't call me up and say, "Wow, Alcoholics Anonymous works." She called me up, and she was crying so loud, I couldn't tell what she was saying. I go, "Mom, you got to pull it together. I can't understand what you're saying." She goes, "When did you get a checking account?" Because that's the kind of loser I am. And Alcoholics Anonymous made my mom's day because she got a check, and it wasn't about the money. It had my address. It had my name. She thought, "Oh, my God, I don't know anything about this AA thing, but they're growing them up. Isn't this amazing?" In January of 1991, I lost the best job I'd ever had. I'd moved back to LA. I'd lied to somebody right in their eyes about my drinking. They had asked me what was going on with it. I worked in the aerospace industry. I had kind of a reputation. I told them I wasn't drinking anymore. They gave me a chance. I did great work for that company for about 6 months. And then the owner of the company made a horrible mistake. He came up to me one day and he put his arm around me. He said, "Don, I just want you to know you've done a great job here. Now, I don't know what your alcoholics' ears hear, but what mine heard were, you know what, Don, you've done a great job here. You really need to slack off. And I proceeded to slack off at that job, and I started to show up drunk, and I started to miss time, and I got fired for my drinking. And I copped a plea with my sister in Simi Valley, California, played the victim card, said, God, they fired me after all I did for them. I need a place to get on my feet. My sister took me in her house. She said, Don, you can stay in my house, but if you drink, you're out. Because everyone knows I'm a drunk by this time. And I tell my sister, I won't drink, I promise. Because I can lie to the Pope by this time. It's not a big deal. And I was in that house for 8 months until I got sober, and I drank every day in that house. And if you don't know how you drink around them when they're watching you, well, maybe you're not a sneaky rat like I am. I got no problem drinking around your schedule. What time do you, I'm unemployed. What time do you go to work? 7 a.m., bars open. And at the end of my drinking, I'm not drinking so my friends mean something more to me. I'm not drinking so I can kid myself that I'm better looking than I am. I'm not drinking so that wall goes down between me and you. I'm doing oblivion drinking. I'm doing light switch drinking. I'm getting the whiskey on board hard enough and fast enough to shut off my head so I can go into a blackout, so I can pass out in this room I'm mooching off of my sister in Simi Valley, California, so I can come out of my blackout to meet the hideous four horsemen sitting on the end of the bed. Terror, frustration, bewilderment, despair. They sat on the end of the bed and they waited for me to come up from my latest blackout, and then they would talk to me in my own voice about my life. And they'd say, who are you going to hurt today, Don? Who are you going to steal from today, Don? What are you going to do to drink today, Don? You've taken every good thing that ever came your way and you've torn it to shreds. It is over, man. What are you doing? What are you going to do? And I don't know what you do with a head like that on a hangover morning, but I just took another pull off the bottle. And I swear I thought it was going to go down that way. I went up to my brother-in-law September of 91. How dark it is before the dawn. And I said, I got my unemployment check, Larry, can I borrow your car? And he asked me a very unusual question. He said, will you be coming back? And the reason he asked me that question, I'd borrowed his car a few times that summer and gone out on little vacations. And I'm an alcoholic. Defiance is my outstanding characteristic, and I got right in Larry's face. I said, Larry, how dare you? You know, the last time this happened, I told you how sorry I was. I opened up my heart to you, and now you're giving me a hard time. You know, I'm unemployed. I just want to cash my check. I can't believe you're doing this to me. He got all embarrassed, said he was sorry, held the keys out, took the keys, went down to the liquor store to cash my check, because that's where alcoholics of my type cash their unemployment checks. And while I'm standing in line, I have what the book refers to as the thought that precedes the first drink, which always sounds like, what's in a half pint? And I get the half pint, and I drink that in the parking lot, and the half pint gets lonely, so we need to drink another half pint. And I think to myself, I can go visit those friends in the valley and be back in 45 minutes, you know, and I'm gone. And 3 days later, I'm driving up the hill to face that family I'd done over one more time. One more time, I've taken their hope, their faith, and their trust, and I've just torn it to shreds. And you need to hear this. Driving up the hill to face that family I'd done over one more time, I love them no less than I love them at this very moment. But you see, I can't serve two masters. I only got time to serve one. And that's King Alcohol. And you get between me and a drink, it's nothing personal. It's almost businesslike. I'm getting to the drink. I'm going around you. I'm going through you. I'm manipulating you. I'm telling you what you want to hear, but bet your bottom dollar I'm getting to the drink. And I don't know how to tell you that because I don't know what I suffer from. I think it's a moral issue. I think I'm weak-spined. I think I need to just man up and I'll be okay. I don't understand that I suffer from an obsession of the mind beyond my understanding. I don't understand that I'm going to surrender to the call of King Alcohol, and that I'm eventually, with no recovery, with no spiritual solution, I'm doomed to drink again and again. And that once I put any alcohol in my system of any kind, the phenomenon of craving will kick off, that allergic reaction. And then I have no idea how much I'm going to drink or what I'm going to do. And I don't know that. Intellectually, I think it's a moral dilemma. I think I'm a bad person. I don't know what I suffer from. So I say things to my family like, I'm sorry. I don't mean to treat you this way. I don't know why I do these things. And it got really hard for my family to believe those sweet apologies when I did it over and over and over again. I walk in the house. My sister has informed me that my brother-in-law wanted to report the car stolen, and she negotiated him down to a missing persons report. And the Simi Valley police are on their way up to do the follow-up investigation. Now, I don't know if you've ever been up for 3 days drinking and doing other things, but the police usually aren't who you want to talk to. I got warrants for my arrest in 2 counties, so I start yelling at my sister, I got warrants, I'm going to jail. Thanks a lot, because now it's their fault. I go outside in front of the house because I don't want the interview to go on in front of the family, because I have no idea what I'm going to be saying, but I'm fairly certain I'm going to be lying, right? And the black and white unit rolls up, and on the side of the black and white unit it says, Canine Unit. And I thought, great, they brought the dog. Like I'm in any shape to make a run for it. And the cop gets out and he starts asking me those hard, tough questions. He's a trained professional, like, where were you? And most of what I remember is illegal. So I'm making up a story about a bachelor party that got out of control. And he starts looking at my eyes really hard because they're like Chinese road maps and they're rolling up in my head. And I see him looking at me, so I break his gaze and he breaks with me. So now we're talking and we're doing this in front of the house. And I'm really nervous. My hands are wet. And I see the dog in the back seat and I just want to divert his attention. And I go, hey, is that your partner? And he says, well, yes, it is. And he walks over and he opens the back door and this dog gets out. German Shepherd, not a hair out of place. Like a Rin Tin Tin reincarnate. And with no prompting on my part, he starts to relay facts to me about the dog's life. The dog is 3 years past mandatory retirement. They can't retire him. He's too good. The dog has participated in more arrests than any dog in the history of Ventura County. The dog has participated in more arrests and rescues than any dog in the history of Ventura or Los Angeles County. This dog was so phenomenal that the officers took a collection out of pocket to send him over to Europe for international competition where he kicked butt on German Shepherds. And I'm saying to the officer, that's a phenomenal dog you have there, sir. And this thought flies in the back of my mind, the kind of thought the minute you think it, you know it's the truth. You may want to deny it with every fiber in your being, but you know it's the truth. And what the truth was is this dog had done significantly more with his life than I'd done with mine. And I hated that dog. And I'd love to tell you about, I had a spiritual awakening that the dog was the trigger, and I found myself in Alcoholics Anonymous, but that would be lying to you. You see, I knew I wasn't going to be able to stop drinking, but my family was going to throw me out, so I played the recovery card. I mean, I was theatrical, I cried, I begged for another chance. I'll go to AA and everything. And they said, okay, we'll see what happens. And you know, the truth of the matter is they didn't really believe me. My first 2 weeks in Alcoholics Anonymous, my family was taking me to AA meetings and picking me up from AA meetings. You know, that makes you feel like when you're 31 years old and you look the way I look and you get in your older sister's car at the end of the night, she's driving you home, she goes, so Donald, what'd you learn in AA tonight? You know, and it's just... And things started happening for me fast and furious in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're new in the program, here's the beautiful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. The actions don't care why you take them. You know, belief in Alcoholics Anonymous that it'll work for you has no value. Having faith that Alcoholics Anonymous will work for you, absolutely worthless. You see, the rubber meets the road on who's willing to take the actions dictated in the first 164 pages of the big book through sponsored direction. If you're willing to take those actions, you will get the desired result. It's one of the few guarantees in life that I know of that actually holds its weight. When I was new in Alcoholics Anonymous, men told me this. They said, if you come with us and you go with us and you do exactly what we do, we have absolutely no idea what will happen to you. But we guarantee it'll be better than what you have now. Something happened to me my second meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the most important thing that has ever happened to me in AA from that moment to where I stand here today. I was in the Simi Valley Alano Club. A guy named Big Lou came up to me, and Lou said, hey, Don, this is Mark. Mark will be your sponsor. See, I got sober in a group of activists that didn't believe that newcomers should pick their own sponsor. He used to say, look, we won't let a newcomer chair a meeting till he's 60 days sober. Why the hell would we let him pick his sponsor? They say picking a sponsor is far too important a decision for a new guy to make. So they brought me over this guy and they said, he'll be your sponsor. And there's really a good reason behind that, because I hear a lot of stuff where I'm at now and where I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous where people, well-meaning people, will give newcomers advice. They go, well, find somebody that has what you want. Well, let me tell you, when I was new, what I wanted was a narcotic salesman with a spare Cadillac. And I certainly wouldn't have picked the guy they assigned to me. They walked this guy over, a little bald-headed guy, he's about 5'9", maybe $140, got a real soft voice, kind of talks like this. And I'm a street guy, you know how street guys are. You size a guy up immediately. Can I take him? Can he take me? Does he have something I want? Do I have something he wants? You do that stuff. I mean, we don't sniff each other's tails, but it's just short of that. I mean, it's the same thing. And I look at this guy and I figure I'll have him wrapped around my finger in no time. And I sit down with Mark and we have our first baby sponsor interview, and he says something right off the bat that I like. He says, you know what, Don, I'm not going to ask you to do anything in Alcoholics Anonymous I'm not doing myself, which sounded completely fair until I found out he went to 14 meetings a week, never said no to an AA request. And his idea of a good time is one of you hits a rough spot in the road, you call him up about 2 a.m., you go down to local Denny's and talk it through. He used to say, to the extent that I'm willing to be inconvenienced for my fellow alcoholic, that's the extent that I walk with God. So I got this spiritual zealot on my hands. I know that AA isn't going to work for me, and we started down the road. And I'll tell you, that guy saved my bacon because he didn't listen to anything I had to say. I would come to him with my big problems, and I had big problems when I got sober. And I go, you know, I'm 80 grand in debt to the IRS. I got warrants for my arrest in 2 counties. I haven't worked in over a year. I haven't had a valid driver's license in 10 years. What am I going to do about these things? And he'd go, well, those are your big problems, Don? And I'd go, yeah, I think they're fairly significant. And he told me I was wrong. And what he told me is I only had one problem. He goes, Don, I'm going to keep it simple. The only problem you have is you suffer from a disease called alcoholism. And that means you got something that wants to kill you slowly and take a large bite out of anyone that has the misfortune of caring about a loser like you. That's your only problem. We'll let you know when these other things are problems. And what I heard him say was I didn't have to pay back the IRS. But I found out I was wrong. And he got me busy in Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, he got me busy from day one. I'm going to go to meetings. I'm going to go to these 14 meetings. I can't be seen standing around. I don't want to see you standing around. You're going to be setting up or you're going to be cleaning up. Gratitude is an action around here, Don. You're too sick to just come into meetings and take what's set up there. You got to help out right away. You got to look for the guy that's newer than you. And when I was new, when I was a week, 2 weeks sober, I go, I am new. And he goes, well, there's going to be somebody who's got a day. That's the guy you're going to welcome. And when they ask you how you did it, say, I don't know. There's my sponsor. Go ask him. And he got me busy in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he made very easy terms for me my first 30 days, you know. I'm not working. I'm just hanging out in the Alano Club. I found out what an AA bum was. It was real interesting to me. I heard somebody refer to another member as an AA bum. So I went up to my sponsor. I go, what's an AA bum? He goes, oh, an AA bum's a guy who ain't got no job, but he goes to lots of meetings and sounds real spiritual. And I went, where do I sign up? It's like perfect. And so I'm going to all these meetings. I make it to 30 days sober. And I just remember I got that 30-day chip, 30-day coin, you know. And I remember, like, I'm still so cool, you know. I got the tough guy Fu Manchu, and I got the long hair, and I'm just, you know, the sunglasses and meetings with the sun out, and I have my arms folded, you know, just... It seemed like every meeting, my sponsor's coming up to me after the meeting going, you know, he never talked to me, just give me that curling finger, and we'd go outside, and he'd always start by going, we don't do that in AA, and he'd tell me what my latest outrageous, grievous thing that I had done in some meeting, cross-talked somebody, threatened somebody, threw something at somebody, you know. Just they had so many rules in AA when I got here, and but I kind of like my sponsor. He's a good guy. He's not being too hard on me. And I like the meetings. I don't want to tell anybody that because I'm still a tough guy and I'm cool. But, you know, I couldn't go to sleep that night. I just laid in bed, man, and I looked at that coin. I just kept flipping it over and looking at it, you know. And I had that feeling like, man, I can't think of the last time I went 30 days without a drink. I can't remember. And I didn't have the vocabulary and I didn't have the knowledge and I didn't have the faith. Didn't have anything that would have been able to tell me at that time or explain to you how I felt or why I knew this thing would work for me. But I knew that I'd found something. And I'll tell you, at that point, at 30 days, I became really concerned with screwing it up. In 30 short days, you know, I knew guys ask me all the time, how long does this thing take? Man, that long. That time you're sitting in a meeting and that thought flies in your head and you go, damn it, this thing could work for me. That long. 30 days I'd heard enough men share openly and honestly about where they had been and what they had done, and I had identified with them. That gift, one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic to reduce his feelings of difference so he can start taking actions he does not yet believe in. Have that identification, and I knew these guys had been where I'd been, and they had done what I had done, and they weren't drinking, and they were happy. 30 days I lay in bed, and I look at that stupid little aluminum coin, and it means more to me than all the gold in the world, and I think I found something. My sponsor talks to me the next day, and he goes, by the way, Don, we work in this group. Is anything you want to tell me about that? And, you know, I'd built a relationship in 30 short days with this guy, and if I had to rethink it, I probably would have said something different, but I told him the truth. I said, I don't have to get a job. I'm collecting unemployment. Oh. Man, if you want to piss your sponsor off, get a sponsor that works about 50 to 60 hours a week and tell him you don't have to get a job because you're collecting unemployment. That'll work. He got really upset. His eyes got really red. And he asked me in his best controlled anger voice, is there any reason other than sheer laziness that you can't get a job? I thought about it and I went, nope. And, so we sat down to plan my financial future. I had some big ideas. I had worked in this industry for a long time, and I had some contacts left. And I want to go back. I got to make the big money. I got a lot of amends to make, sponsors, like I have any intention of making those amends. And he said, no. He said, no, Don, if you go back and you make the big money, you won't be humble, your ego won't be smashed, and then you'll drink and you'll die, and it won't matter anyway. No, Don, for you, we need something humbling. And he looked at my resume and said, you know, you've never worked with your hands, have you? I said, barely know which end to hold a hammer. He said, interesting. And he showed up at the meeting the next night and he told me he got me a job as a laborer on a framing crew. Now, I'd like to tell you some spiritual story about at that point I found my life's true calling was to work with these. Oh, nothing could be further from the truth. I was terrible at that job. I was awful at that job. Let me tell you how bad I was. I had a nickname on the job site, the Bleeder. And I earned it every day. So now I got a sponsor who doesn't have my best interests at heart, and I'm going to this job. I'm going to 2 meetings a night, and I'm beginning to think that maybe AA isn't going to work for me. And I start to have that newcomer ego come back, like who's this guy to tell me what to do and how to work and what to do? And I'll tell you, this guy knew exactly what he was doing. You know, I make it up to the 4-month mark in recovery. I've done my 3rd step. He's on my back about doing my inventory, and I'm doing the 3-step shuffle in Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm not writing my inventory. And I don't see what that has to do with the fact that the wind's returned and it's howling through my gut. And I'm starting to get real sick in Alcoholics Anonymous from the disease of alcoholism. Because I'm going to 14 meetings a week, and I'm cleaning up, and I'm setting up. And what I've done is I built a juggernaut of a program of distraction. And what we have to build here is a program of action. And one without the other won't work. And I'm doing everything you can do in Alcoholics Anonymous but work the steps, and I'm getting crazy. And I'm talking to my sponsor about what's going on with me. And he's telling me my problem is that I'm not in the moment. He says, Don, you're never going to be in the moment until you write your inventory and you come clean with what happened in your past, until you find out what's wrong with you so you can go to God in 6 and 7, so you can give him all of you, so you can start to work on these character defects with God's help. You're not going to be able to change your life any more than you could quit drinking on your own. You got to have God's help. But we got to find out what's going on with you, and that's why we write the inventory. And until you go and you clean that stuff in 8 and 9, you're not going to have that position of neutrality, safe and protected, where it seems like the problem's just been removed. And he got out the book and he showed me in black and white where it said that I'm on shaky ground where the drink is concerned until I get to the 9th step in the program of recovery. And I'm stuck on 3, thinking he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm getting crazier and crazier in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm beginning to think that AA doesn't work for me. And he comes to me when I'm 4 months sober and he tells me we're going to go to court, which is no big deal. In AA, we always go to court. You know, we're always standing up for somebody, vouching for somebody, waving goodbye to somebody. I mean, it's really common stuff. So I asked my sponsor, who are we going for? He said, oh, we're going for you. I said the typical newcomer response, me? They don't even know where I'm at, you know. And he told me, you know, if you're going to live free of this stuff, you're going to have to start cleaning up some of your wreckage. And I said, well, isn't that kind of out of order with the steps? He goes, yeah, it is, Don, but for your case, we're going to make an exception. You know, you've lived as a criminal long enough. I know you don't think of yourself as a criminal, but when you have warrants for your arrest in 2 counties, clue in, you're a criminal. That's what society looks at you. And you're a sober man now. You got to clean this stuff up. So now I'm trying to figure out what I did to piss my sponsor off. And I think it's because I haven't written my inventory. And he says to be out in front of my house at 8 o'clock the next morning. 8 o'clock the next morning, I get out, and there's my sponsor. And he's in the best mood I've ever seen him in. I get in his truck, then he's whistling, he's smiling. I haven't slept all night because I know I'm going to jail. And he looks over at me with this big smile, and he goes, you know what, Don? When I came to AA, I was in a lot of trouble. Now you're in trouble. This is better. And if you're new, that's the short message we carry to you. That's why we're so damn glad to see you. We know you're in trouble. But we know it's only temporary, and that's the experience we carry. It's only temporary. You only got to go through it once. That's what they told me. And I showed up in a couple of different courtrooms with sponsored direction. And the beautiful thing about sponsored direction is even in that situation, I'm removed. Because all I did was what my sponsor told me to do. Got my name on the docket, sat there patiently for a couple hours wearing my cheapest Salvation Army suit, trying to look like a citizen. And they finally call your name. And I get up in front of a judge, and he rustles the paperwork, and he looks up, and he says, you're late. 4 years. And they asked for an explanation. And I just told the judge exactly what my sponsor said to say. Squared my shoulders, filled my lungs with air, looked that judge right in the eye and said, Your Honor, until 4 months ago, I was drinking myself to death on a daily basis. I've been fortunate enough to become a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I haven't had a drink in 4 months. And I'm here through sponsored direction to clean up the wreckage of my past. And whatever the court deems necessary for that to occur, I will do so willingly. Because I knew it was coming, because I'm grandiose, and I got this picture in my mind of a judge grabbing a gavel and going, we've been waiting for you, boy. And I didn't skate. I had to pay back a lot of money. I had to do an obscene amount of community service at the Salvation Army. I did so much community service at the Salvation Army that when I was done, they threw me a party. I mean, it was just... But I'll tell you, the interesting thing about that situation is I walked into a situation... There's a gift there where when you come to Alcoholics Anonymous and you have the kind of wreckage in your life that I had, I mean, you're just bent over with that wreckage. And in a sober state, it's almost like you've been driving the vehicle of your life at 100 miles an hour away from the scene of the crime, and you hit that wall of sobriety, and all that wreckage comes in the back seat and just about cuts you to ribbons. And you think, man, how's it ever going to be okay? And you go into these situations and you clean up one thing, and that load gets a little bit lighter, and you're starting to straighten up a little bit, but that's not the gift. The gift is you walk in with a sponsor and you're absolutely convinced that this guy does not have your best intentions at heart. And you walk out of the same situation, and I didn't have to go to jail, and I had a plan. And I thought about it, and I go, man, society has always done this for me. All my life I've screwed up, but society has always told me, if you do this, this, and this, we'll call it good. I've never followed through. Never followed through. But this time I had a home group, and I had a sponsor, and I had AA members to support me, and I actually followed through, and I got through those things. And I began to realize maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. But I still wouldn't write my inventory, and I was still getting crazy. And my sponsor still told me my problem was I'm not in the moment. And I would look at him and think he's crazy. How do you be in the moment? And I'd start to talk to him. He'd go, see, you're in the past. You're in the past and remorse. You're in the future and worry. Past and remorse, future and worry. You're never right here, Don. Everything's fine right here. And you're never going to be able to be in the moment until you get through the steps. And I have no idea what he's talking about. I got a head like a beehive. And I made it to the 6-month mark in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to 2 meetings a night. I'm framing, swinging a hammer, shedding blood at this job site, 8-10 hours a day. And Fridays were the worst. I get up Friday, I'm the most tired. I begged my sponsor to let me, dial it back to 8 meetings a week. And he said, well, you drank all night every night, didn't you? Yeah, well, you're going to go to AA all night every night. And I get up this one Friday morning, and I'm done. I quit. AA doesn't work. I've done everything you've asked me to do, except the steps, but I don't believe those work anyway. And I'm crazy. It's worse than it's ever been. I don't necessarily think I'm going to drink, but I got to leave AA. I got to get away from these people. That night, I'm going to the meeting. I'm telling my sponsor, I quit. If I got to sign something, I'll sign, but I'm out of here. And it's 4:30 in the morning on a Friday morning, and I'm kind of sad. Kind of sad. I gave AA everything I had, and here's another thing that let me down. And I leave the house, and I got my framing bags on my shoulders, and I got this 45-minute walk down the hill to where I meet this guy who drives me to the job site every day and drops me off at night. And I got my little Playmate lunch bag, made up of cheap meat sandwiches because it's all I can afford. And it's 4:30 in the morning, and anywhere in the world at 4:30 in the morning, it's quiet out, and it's cool, and there's dew on the grass, and it's sad. It's a sad morning. I'm thinking about my sponsor, and I'm thinking about AA, and how I just got to get out of here, and it just isn't working, and it's a bad morning. And then I saw them. They were like 3 houses down the hill from me, and they must have got out of a neighbor's yard. A couple of Rottweilers. Gorgeous dogs. And they're just doing the things that dogs do when they get out of a neighbor's yard at 4:30 in the morning. They're chasing each other over hedges, and they're on the grass rubbing their backs and just playing with each other. And I got to tell you, it lifted my spirits. Stopped me in my tracks. I watched these dogs playing, and it lifted my spirits. And then they saw me. And they looked at each other, and they looked at me, and they looked at each other, And they charged me. And I'm telling you, I started screaming like a 6-year-old girl. Oh! And I backed up, and I got my framing bags down, and and I'm fending them off like some bizarre matador, and they're coming at my feet, and they're breaking off, and they're going around the side, and I'm running backwards down the hill thinking, oh my God, they're flanking me. All the way down the hill, these dogs, to tell you the truth, I was of such service to these dogs. They had such a great time. I mean, they were chasing me over hedges, almost like, let's see how high he jumps this time. And they just quarter-mile down the hill until they got bored, and they run up the hill, and I'm down there, and I'm watching them go in, and and I'm not leaving AA now, and at least not till I talk to my sponsor and tell him my latest event of outrageous behavior. So I go to my sponsor, and I tell him the whole story, you tell him that story in like 8 seconds, And they were huge, and they were vicious, they had blood dripping off their fangs, they chased me over, it was awful, and I fended them off, and they were going to kill me, and I finished, he doesn't miss a beat, he goes, well, I bet you're in the moment. And my first sponsor was the kind of guy, he could put a spiritual spin on anything, and he said, you know what, Don? He goes, I really believe that God loves you very much. And I believe that when alcoholics come into Alcoholics Anonymous and they raise their hand and they say they're an alcoholic and they hit their knees and they ask God to help, he hears that prayer. And I don't think God really cares how he has to get your attention. And I hope he just doesn't have to send any more Rottweilers after you to show you that he loves you. And I'll tell you, I wrote my inventory in record time, and I did my 5th step with my sponsor, and I did my 6th and 7th step, and I did that 7th step the way my sponsor told me, where this isn't about what God's going to do for me, this is about what I'm going to do for God. It's about the contract. It's about there's things I have to fulfill in Alcoholics Anonymous if I want to live sober and happy and free. It's about telling God, take all of me, all of it, good and bad, and just give me strength. That's all I ask, because I'm too weak. On my own, I can't do what you have in store for me. Give me strength so as I go out from here, I can do what you want me to do. Let me do your bidding. And I started cleaning up that wreckage. And I'll tell you, I remember I was making about $9 an hour, and I was 2 years sober, and it was time to start paying back the IRS. I cleaned up all the major wreckage. I made all those family amends and all those personal amends, and I was doing all those living amends. And it was time to take on the IRS. I owed them $80,000, and I picked up the phone, and remember they answered the phone, Internal Revenue Service, and I hung up, and I found out that God's kids work at the IRS too, and I made a payment agreement. I said I'd send them $100 a month, and I'll tell you, when you make $9 an hour and you write that first check for $100 and you owe them $80,000, this is what you think. You go, oh, good, $79,900 to go, and it's like you're willing, though. It's funny when you start doing that stuff in recovery, you kind of enter a state of grace. I don't know what anybody else's experience has been, but this is the truth for me. The minute I started paying off my financial amends, I started getting better jobs. I don't know. I don't believe that God is the job counselor by any means. But I do believe if you're trying to live a sober life and you're trying to do the right thing, doors open. That's just been my experience. I've always had my needs met. And until I started paying back the IRS, I really didn't need any more money, to be honest with you. And it wasn't like I lived well because I started making more money. They got all of it for a really long time. And it wasn't important. And it's not about the money. It's about being free. It's about waking up in the morning and not having to look over your shoulder. It's about not waking up and having your head tell you all the things that you've got to get right with, all those promises you've got to go and fulfill, all those apologies you haven't made that you need to make. I mean, one of the biggest problems I had with the amends process is it's not that I hurt a lot of people. I was a pretty closed down guy. The people I hurt a great deal. But for me, it was the sins of omission. God blesses us with skills and aptitudes. And every one of us in this room, we have talents, we have gifts, we have abilities. And I used them so selfishly before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. It was all about me all the time. And if you come to believe that God has us here to take care of each other, and we're given these skills and aptitudes and abilities so we can share them with other people, so we can take in other people and fulfill the holes in their life, and the things that they have that we don't have, they'll fulfill the holes in our life. If we believe that there's a symbiotic relationship going on with mankind, and God is the director of this, if you come to believe that, you got to look at the amends process and go, how many opportunities did I miss? How many times did I have something I could have helped with, and I didn't do it? And I had to start making living amends in those areas. I didn't get to play the casual observer anymore. I didn't get to say no to things. I didn't get to walk away from family obligations. I didn't get to walk away. And it's the little things as AA members we have the ability to have that lightness in our step and that glint in our eye. And it's the stupid stuff my sponsors have always taught me. Don't litter. Hold the door for people. Say thank you. Tip well. Silly stuff. Stuff that I don't see has anything to do with God, but I know when I do those things that are based on being kind to somebody other than myself, I feel closer to God. That's been my experience. And what's happened to me, I was in the Los Angeles area for the first 13 years of my recovery, and I fell in love in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got married 10 years ago. I'm still married to that same crazy, beautiful, vibrant, wacky alcoholic who, the best thing I could say about my wife is I've been with her for 12 years all told, and I am so far from being bored with that woman, I can't even tell you. I wouldn't even know what it's like to be bored with her. She fires my imagination. She frightens me perfectly. She is just the apple of my eye, and we both work this program in our homes and in all our affairs, and it has been just a wonderful, wonderful ride with her, and that's been a real gift in recovery. And a few years back, she just looked at me one day. We had taken a trip up to the Pacific Northwest, and she said, you know what, I want to live somewhere beautiful. I don't want to live in L.A. anymore. I don't want to live with the crime and the dirt and the helicopters we hear at night. And I was like, she'll grow out of it, And she didn't. And so 2 years ago, we moved to Bellingham, Washington. And I did some smart things before I moved up there. I called every AA member that I knew personally that had moved from one place and had moved to another. And I said, what do you do? And they told me, okay, this is what you're going to go through. And they gave me this whole list of things I was going to experience when I went to AA in this new place. And then they told me all the things not to do and all the things to do. And what I wasn't allowed to do is I wasn't to tell them that there was anything wrong with their AA. I wasn't able to talk about the AA I was from. I was only able to go to meetings, talk about how grateful I was that there was an Alcoholics Anonymous at my destination and how grateful I was to be with them, and there was a meeting waiting for me, and this is terrific. And if I was going to change anything that I thought needed changing, if I was going to bring anything that I had been taught in Alcoholics Anonymous that I thought would be helpful there, I'd have to do it without talking about it, and I'd have to do it from the middle of the room, and I'd have to do it from the inside. So in the last 2 years, I've gotten very busy in Alcoholics Anonymous where I'm at. I go to 5 meetings a week. I was GSR for our men's meeting for 2 years. I was the corrections and treatment rep for the last 2 years. I'm the incoming DCM in District 11. And I don't tell you that stuff like, oh, he's a big shot in AA. There are no big shots in AA. Being a big shot in AA is like being voted most popular on your cell block. But I'm running out of time, but I'm going to leave you with something. And please, I just want to share this with you because I share it with the guys I sponsor. And I don't have an opinion on anybody else's program but my own. And that opinion is actually fine-tuned by my sponsor. I take great responsibility for what I do in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been sober long enough that I don't think I know what's right for everybody. And I mean that. But I'll tell you, there's something that's kicked around a lot where I'm at, and I've heard it kicked around in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I just want to talk about it briefly because I think it's interesting. And there's a thing that you can do with the big book. It's a very interesting thing. If you're here a while and you know the book pretty well, you can pick out little pieces in the book, and you can make the book kind of back up anything you're doing. You really can. And there's something that people do with the book, and it's been going on since I got sober, and it's that one paragraph that says, none of us make a sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. A greater demonstration of our principles awaits us in their respective homes, occupations, and affairs. And they stop, like end of paragraph. But that's not the end of the paragraph. And the reason people quote that is that's a convenient excuse of why we don't go to more meetings, why we don't take commitments in our home groups, why we don't get involved in service work, because we work the program in our home. And I work the program at work. Was that where the alcoholics are? Interesting. I go to meetings because that's where they keep the newcomers, just for me. But the rest of that paragraph is interesting. It says, all of us devote most of our spare time to the work we're about to describe. Some of us are so situated that we can devote all of our time to the work. But it says that all of us, and this is the first 100 men and women in Alcoholics Anonymous, it said all of us devoted most of our spare time. Which means I can be married, and I can have a healthy marriage, and we can go out to dinner, and I can go play golf with my friends, and I can be a businessman, and I can go to work, and I can give my boss a dime for his nickel, and all those things I taught, and I can still be a devoted member of Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, this is one of the few societies in the world, if you think about it, it's us. Look around. When you show up at a meeting and everything's done, somebody did that. Alcoholics Anonymous is by alcoholics for alcoholics. And it's a very precious thing we have here, but we're responsible for it. If you don't like a meeting you're going to, take a commitment and change it. If you don't like a clubhouse and there's sobriety there, start going to meetings there and change it. If you don't like something in AA, change it. Go to a district meeting. Go to a gratitude banquet. Start sponsoring people. This is what we do for each other. You see, there is no one behind us. There's nobody outside the rooms to clean up after we leave. We are for free and for fun, but we are self-supporting. And I think it's really important that we understand that there are issues in Alcoholics Anonymous, as there have always been since the beginning. And the only answer to these issues are going to come from within our fellowship. See, our answers will never come from outside of the fellowship. So we have that unique capability and opportunity to do something that nobody else can do. We are uniquely qualified to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. I don't care how much money they got. I don't care how smart they are. I don't care how shiny their treatment center is. I don't care how slick they are. Nobody can help an alcoholic like an alcoholic. And that's what we can do for each other. But it starts in the rooms, and it starts with our commitment. It starts with, how grateful am I? Do I want this here for the next guy? And I'll tell you, I'm so grateful that the men that have sponsored me have drilled that into me. That the real joy here, the real joy in Alcoholics Anonymous, is when you know you've been saved from a fate worse than death, and then you turn your attention to saving the next guy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Sober Sunrise. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give it a thumbs up, as it will help share the message. Until next time, have a great day.